Hey everyone, welcome back to AFTV. We are previewing Arsenal versus PSV here at our beautiful 60,000 seater stadium, the Emirates Stadium. Listen, Turkish, this is, I kind of mentioned the Predict 11, this is a weird one because normally halfway through the group stage you've had a little bit of a feel of everyone, not PSV, and they're probably the best team, I'd like to say best side, either one, in the group.
Yeah, I'd say comfortably they're the best side in the group.
Behind us.
Well, behind us, yeah, because they dropped that 2 points to Bodo in the first game. Bodo done well to take a point away from Eindhoven at their own ground. Aside from that, you see the two performances against Zurich, 5 goals, 5-1, 5-0 victory. We saw how maybe difficult we made it against Zurich. Obviously, it's a heavily rotated side in the Europa League in the first few games. So the main thing for me will be what Arteta does. Does he go strong and hope to put that Leeds performance behind us? Obviously, we got the 3 points, but in terms of performance, probably our worst performance of the season. Or does he rotate and give those integral starting 11 players a due rest before the Southampton game? Obviously, it's a welcome change to having to pick between which one is more important in years gone by. Do we focus on the Europa League? Do we focus on the Premier League? Right now, we're top of the Premier League with 4 games to go before the World Cup. So I tend to focus on that and hope to get the job done against PSV. But at the same time, finishing top of this group is so important that I might lean towards going a bit stronger than I usually would in this competition.
We've got a little bit of history with PSV. Was it our first year at the Emirates Stadium? They knocked us out of the Champions League. Am I getting that right?
Was it the first year at the Emirates? It might have been.
Maybe the second year. I think we lost. I want to say we lost 1-0 there and we drew 1-1 here. I really should be more researched on that.
It was something like that, yeah.
It was something like that. So what have we got to worry about, all these years on now? We know Cody Gakpo, that's a name that gets brought up a lot, but I know you did box to box, got some good insight there. Talk to us a little bit about PSV.
Well, Gakpo by far is the outstanding threat to watch in the league. 9 goals, 7 assists in their first 10 games. In the Europa League, 3 goals and 2 assists in their first 3 games. So he is definitely the biggest threat they possess, and it's a player that we were linked to in the summer. I'm not sure how strong those links were, but I remember a lot of Arsenal fans looking at Gakpo on that left-hand side, his physique, how tall he is, saying that he'll add something. And with Emil Smith-Rowe out and a lack of depth from Martinelli at this moment in time, it might be an interesting one to look out for in the not so distant future. As well as that side, we have Simmons on the other side, a free transfer in the summer, a lot of question marks over his head.
Was he the one who's at PSG at some point?
Yeah.
Cool.
He starts out on the left for them, out on the right for them. In the league, he's got 8 goals and a few assists himself, so he's as much as a threat as Gakpo is. And they also get goals from Veerman, Vitesse. They've got threats in terms of goal scoring. They're the highest goal scorers in the Dutch league, just a point behind Ajax at the top after 10 games played as well. So they've had a pretty strong start to the season overall. They're more an attacking side than a solid defensive unit, which in my opinion bodes well for us. I much prefer playing against teams that look to press us and look to get us on the back foot rather than a team that plays a low block. So
yeah. And Arsenal have been conceding goals here at the Emirates. We know the 2 against Leicester, 1 each with Villa and Fulham. Liverpool scored 2 here, although we know what Liverpool possess in terms of quality, as do many sides, I suppose, in the Premier League. And Bodo Glimt caused us a few problems. I know we won 3-0, but that away performance, sort of digging it out of 1-0, wasn't overly surprising with the way they played at times here at the Emirates. So it could be a fairly open game. Let's just remind ourselves of the state of the group. 3 wins out of 3 for Arsenal, 2 wins out of 3, and a draw for PSV leave us on 9 and 7 points respectively. Bodo Glimt on 4 and Zurich on 0. Bodo Glimt will very much be hoping for Arsenal to get the win. If Bodo Glimt can then do the job against Zurich, they'll be level on 7 each, and then depending on what happens out in the Netherlands, it leaves Bodo Glimt with a chance to knock PSV out and nick that second place. So that's quite interestingly poised. PSV, you're right to mention their 5-0 wins against Zurich and 5-1 at their place. They beat Utrecht 6-1 as well. A 3-0 defeat to Cambuur, I believe, in the Eredivisie about 5 games ago or so. So listen, there's goals in PSV's games.
And they're quite on form. I mean, we've won 7 of our last 7. They've won 6 of their last 7, right, and the 1 loss in that. So it's 2 teams on form, 1 first in the Premier League, 1 second in the Dutch league. So it's primed to be an entertaining contest, to say the least. Yeah,
what do you want to see from Arsenal? Look, okay, the Predict 11 shows out there. You'll have seen what me and Robbie have gone for. We slightly disagree, actually, in terms of quite how strong we'd go. He's got a slightly more alternative front 3. I've gone for basically Jesus in the 11 and a few others. Is there a little part of you that thinks Arteta's got this opportunity to almost go and seal it a little bit? Because, if we win, that puts us on 12, they're on 7. Basically, it's a case of just beat or draw with Zurich, and it's kind of job done.
Yeah, I said earlier that I'd probably lean towards going a bit stronger. Last Thursday when the lineup came out, I think a lot of us were shocked at how strong it was in comparison to what we expected. Reason being, I look at our performances in the Europa League, and the rotation has helped some of the fringe players, like Vieira and Marquinhos, for example, being two. But at the same time, our performances all round in the Europa League, prior to that Leeds one, were by far our poorest performances in all competitions throughout the season.
I agree.
And now we're heading into a game with PSV where there's a lot of importance on this one here. It's the home game, and we're expected to get the job done, but it's against the second strongest team in the group. And the points matter because finishing first matters. So I'm looking at Jesus. Ideally, yes, I'd like him to, but then I think on Sunday he just didn't look himself, and there was injury concerns with him prior to that game, and I'm just in the back of my mind thinking, were those injury concerns the reason behind his level of performance against Leeds? If so, I'd leave him out of this lineup. Emile Smith-Rowe not being available kind of leaves us a bit short on that left-hand side. It's difficult because I want a stronger front three than this, but I also want to rest Martinez Jesus. So I'm looking at Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, and a Saka again.
Sure.
And this goes against a lot of what I've been saying, because Saka's won throughout last season and the early parts of this one. He's a player getting a lot of minutes, and he's a player that ideally would like to give some rest to heading into a packed schedule, a World Cup where he's expected to start. But we've got a job to get done. He's an Arsenal player first and foremost, an England player second. Partey, Xhaka, I'd probably go a bit strong in the middle, considering the midfield battles we've lost in the last couple in the Europa League. And defensively, I think whoever we play, I'm confident in them. We've come a long way defensively. I think if you was to play Ben White and Rob Holding, I'm comfortable in that situation. If you was to play Ben White and Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, Gabriel Holding, etc., I'm all right with those centre-back pairings. And then wing-backs, we've got Zinchenko, I guess he's still a doubt, Tierney, Tomiyasu, Ben White, Cedric. We've got enough options there, and obviously in goal, Turner, man of the match last week against Bordeaux. I think he deserves his spot.
You mentioned the importance of finishing first, and I know that obviously last year was all about the chase for Champions League and the disappointment we felt when we didn't get it, but kind of when you're in it and you've got a couple of games under your belt and things are starting to shape up in terms of that third place team in the Champions League groups, you kind of start to realise that, cool, whilst there's another competition we'd rather be competing in, this is a competition that, A, you're going to have to work really hard to win anyway, and B, can obviously, if you don't get Champions League football, okay, Arsenal looking good for that, it secures you that place. And when you start looking at the likes of Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, AC Milan, other teams that are being talked about as potentially dropping into the Europa League, it starts to add the importance in the group stage that perhaps we haven't felt in previous years.
100%. I mean, listen, I always say in the Europa League, you don't really know your chances until it's December, January, when you know exactly what Champions League teams drop in. We've seen in the past, we got knocked out by Atletico in the semi-final one season, beaten by Chelsea in the final another season. These are Champions League outfits. They're Champions League teams that find themselves in the Europa League. So there's still a lot more to come in terms of defining our chances in the Europa League. But I think Arsenal on that stage, I mentioned it a few times heading into the season, it's the third year of the process. Our league form has kind of worked in conjunction with that. Third year, we're a lot stronger, we're a lot more consistent. But at the same time, we've got to be able to juggle both. We've got to be able to utilise the squad in both competitions, because this hopefully is the last year of us in the Europa League and we move on to Champions League. And when you get into the Champions League, the pressure on your starting 11 and starting squad, bench included, is a lot more than it is for Europa League. So I think let's just get the job done, see who drops in, keep the Europa League in our back pocket in a sense. Our league form tells us that we're going to make top 4 at this moment. It's only 10 games in, but if shit hits the fan, it's always good to have a backup. And I'm looking at the Europa League as a backup option. At the same time, I'm looking at the Europa League as a chance for a trophy, a European trophy, one that we haven't managed in a long time.
Yeah, very
true. There is some importance there too. And I think a team of Arsenal's calibre should be able to win the Europa League. It's been a few years we've been in it now. We've seen other teams drop in and manage to get over the line, United being one of them, Chelsea, Atletico, so on. I just hope it's Arsenal's year, because as much as top 4 gets you Champions League, top 4 is not success. Success is winning trophies.
Yeah.
So I'd love nothing more than to have a top 4 finish and the Europa League under our belts come the end of the season.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Let's just recap some of the injury news then. I mean, everything's sort of a little hush-hush. Zinchenko, it kind of feels like he might be back at times. We don't really know what's going on there. Smith Rowe and Elneny have their long-term injuries. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything fresh from the Leeds game. Jesus, you mentioned, didn't look quite at it, so would he be rested? It's two schools of thought. Do you rest him so he's fresh for Southampton because he didn't look quite at it at Leeds, or in the case, my argument is try and play him back into form a little bit because the Leeds game wasn't his best. Home comforts, give him an hour, maybe that will help him. So that would be interesting. But no other injury news that you're particularly concerned about that I can think of?
Nah, I'm not. It's a shame with Emil Smith Rowe out because I think Emil Smith Rowe will be starting in this competition.
Yeah. And getting a lot of minutes off the bench as well in the league. Yeah.
And aside from that, which is a shame, listen, I'm confident however we line up. It's just that when I look at previous Europa League performances, they need to be a bit more switched on against PSV. Yeah,
I agree. This could be a real tough one, guys. So let us know in the comment section your score predictions, your thoughts. Right? You want to give a score prediction or?
Yeah, let's give a score prediction 2-1 Arsenal.
2-1 Arsenal. I went 3-2, didn't I, in Forever Arsenal? So I'm going to stick with that. If you haven't checked out Forever Arsenal, go have a little look at it and check out the predicted 11 as well. And always, as always, guys, be in the comment section for your starting 11, your thoughts, your predictions. How strong would you go? Because, this is maybe an opportunity for Arsenal just to, get it done. So we'll see. All right, guys, we'll leave it there. Big thanks. Catch you on the next one.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.